Hey, all right. Well, you guys that have come out this evening, I think we're going to get some more folks showing up in a little bit later. Thanks for coming out to Smooth Village. We have a debate this evening, some candidates for the City Council. This encompasses 3 positions out here. So to introduce myself, I'm Joshua Kennedy. I'm here to moderate the debate with all of the candidates tonight. And I want to thank you guys for all coming out. So with that, we'll go starting with Catherine on the left. If you could take a minute and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Chad and Angel, for having us and hosting this event. Much appreciated. So I'm Catherine Pentalian Parker, and I currently serve on the Leander City Council. This is my first term and seeking re-election and your support for a second term to represent the citizens of Leander. So I stepped into the arena, so to speak, several years ago by sitting on the back row, and I've never had any anticipation of running for council, but I just was interested in our city. So I attended a lot of the city council meetings and served on a lot of boards and commissions, and just decided that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to just do it. If not me, who? If not now, when? And I decided it's time to put my name in the hat, and again, wanting to run for re-election. We've done a lot of good things. We've gotten a lot accomplished, and we still have work to do. So I would like to see those projects through. I won't go into those details because I'm probably running on that 1 minute about now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy, I'm Trey Schisser. I'm running for City Council Place 1. My family and I moved to Leander in 2001. Well, my wife and I moved to Leander in 2001 with the intent of finding a place where we could raise our kids and set roots down and grow with our community. It was a small, wonderful town then, and it has exploded into a very vibrant small city. And I believe that we are on the cusp of being able to become something unique of our own and climb out of the shadows of being an Austin suburb. And I think that, and I signed up to run so that I can help participate in that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Juan Alanis. I'm running for place 3. I'm originally from the Laredo area, and I moved to Austin area in 2010 and here to Leander in 2019. And politics was in my blood when I was in Laredo. I served as on city commissions in Laredo during high school. So I have decided since I'm here now, this is my home for me, my family. I'm raising my kids here. I decided I need to jump in the ring and help make Leander an even better place for my family and my kids as they grow up and make a home here. So, as Trey said, right now we seem more of a shadow community with Austin and Round Rock. But I think we're on the cusp of greatness, and I want to be on council to help make that happen, make Leander a unique place that has its own greatness outside, not in shadow of another city. So hopefully, with your support, we can make that happen.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Haynes. I'm running for place 3 as well. And I'm running because I was raised to give back. This city's been great for me and my family, and I want to give back and help make it an even better city. I've been working on that already. In fact, no one in my race has as much experience on city boards and commissions as I do. Some of my passions and things that I'll be pushing are parks and events, strategic growth, economic development, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of those as the evening goes on. So I'm going to end here, and I just encourage you to listen, and hopefully by the end of tonight, you'll all believe in Steve.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Annette Sponseller. I'm running for Leander City Council Place 5. I've also worked on boards and commissions with the City of Leander for over 5 years, longer than any of my other opponents. I feel that Leander is growing exponentially, as we all know, and we need to really move in stride to secure our infrastructure and economic development so that when we do become a big city, all of that burden isn't on those property tax owners. I'm sure that we're going to discuss some more of that today as well. So I look forward to it. Thank you, and please go vote.
Thank you. All right, so we're starting this off with a question for each candidate, and coincidentally, you have sat in the exact order that I've written all 5 of your names on this sheet of paper. I'm not sure what the odds are of that, but it happened.
Should have bought a lottery ticket, Josh.
So my first question is for Catherine. Do you believe that downtown Leander, Main Street, if you will, is vibrant and healthy? And how do you differ from other candidates in your plan to grow the city? Or what have you done to further the growth of the city?
So yes, I do believe it has the potential to be vibrant. It is getting there. It is so much different than it was when I moved here 12 years ago. So we do have a plan that should come up, I think, in the next meeting for the Old Town Master Plan. So that is part of the master growth to make sure that we are supporting the businesses that are there and bring in new businesses, because we have so much to offer in the Old Town area. Whether it's entertainment here or restaurants, a lot of things are happening, and it's hard to see it until it's there. And we know that everything takes twice as long as we expect. For example, the road took twice as long as we expect. So everything else is just going to take some time, but I absolutely believe it is vibrant, and have been an ambassador for the chamber for over 8 years. So that's one of the things that I do, is welcome businesses here. I try to get new businesses to come here and welcome them once they are here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nobody else has anything to say about that. So, okay.
I have something to say. You gave me a microphone, so. I would say that obviously in Old Town, parking is a huge issue anywhere within Old Town, and specifically what that plan would entail, and what you have done specifically in that area, I would be interested to hear about. But obviously the master plan will be out soon, and hopefully we can see those things. What's going to be important is that our stakeholders, our residents, come out and see that as well. And if there's something that you don't like or something that's needed and hasn't shown up there, that we raise that up so that it gets added, or that we make sure that we take that into consideration.
Okay, it's interesting you brought that up, because I did do a little bit of looking around, and it looks to me as if a good chunk of property in this area is being purchased by commercial entities that are outside of Leander. And so, for Catherine, how can you ensure that local small businesses thrive and are not displaced by larger commercial entities coming up from Austin?
Well, you want the fuzzy answer or the truth?
What you can give me in 60 seconds.
So there's this thing called property rights, and people have a right to sell their property, and people have a right to develop their property. And we don't have an entrance exam for who's buying the property or how it's developed, other than following the transportation, not the transportation code, the planning and zoning. So to say that, I welcome small businesses. I support small businesses, but to say, what am I doing to prevent outside people coming, we don't do that. That's not the role of city council. So that's the truth, not the fuzzy answer.
I think everybody's interested in the truth. Okay. No one else has any comments on that, so we can move on. My next question is for Troy. Trey. I'm so sorry. I may have made it.
There's another Troy around here, and I wish to.
We'll try to keep it focused. So, Trey, do you support Proposition A, and why or why not?
Ooh. I'm a fan of public transportation. Let me just say that outright. As far as Proposition A, I think it's a devil you know versus devil you don't know situation. If we stay with Proposition A, we know what our taxes are going to look like. We know what our budget is going to look like for the next 5 years until we have another chance to have a referendum and vote on it again. If we leave Cap Metro with Proposition A, there are a lot of variables that we haven't gotten good numbers on yet. There are, the city manager has not, he provided an excellent presentation on alternatives to Cap Metro services, but he didn't include any numbers to any estimates on what that's going to cost us. If we can provide those services for a reasonable price, then it's not going to hurt us too bad. But if it ends up costing us, $5 million a year to provide our own services on top of what we're paying to exit Cap Metro, that's going to destroy our budget for the next decade. It's a situation where every citizen needs to understand their comfort level of risk and what it might mean for the city. I'm risk averse. I am risk averse. I'd like to see the budget stay the way we know it is. We can figure out other ways to improve our budget and city services without putting ourselves at risk. But if the citizens decide to vote no on Proposition A, I will do everything I can to help the city find good solutions for those services we need to provide.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
I do want to say something. I myself, I do support Prop A. I actually used a train the other day. I had to go to UT, University of Texas, with my daughter she had to do some research. So for us, it was a lot easier to just hop on the train and go right to UT versus trying to drive into traffic and trying to find parking at UT, which trying to find parking at UT is awful because you have a lucky permit somewhere to find the right spot. But for me, using public transportation was a lot easier than fighting the traffic. So for me, I do support Prop A because I do use it. When I was at UT as a student myself, I used public transportation. So to me, it was a lot easier. But although I do understand the people are concerned about the cost. Here again, I think for me, the exit cost is a little steep. And I think it's going to hurt our budget greatly. So for me, I support it because one, I use it, and two, I think the cost is too much to risk our budget for.
Cap Metro is not in the budget. It's not a budget item. If it were a budget item, it would be the third largest budget department within the general fund. The general fund is funded by sales tax and your property taxes. So the exit, the amount that we're told, let's just call it $50 million. Let's make it worse than they're telling us. If we are projected to not get $164 million, which is what we're told over the next 10 years in sales taxes, and we are going to pay $50 million, again, not 42.3, let's call it 50, then after that is paid, the net financial obligation is paid, then we're getting the rest of that doubled if Prop B passes to collect that sales tax. So to me, if you are paying $50 million to get over $100 million, you tell me where I can get that kind of return on investment. Doesn't happen, doesn't exist. You can't even get retail on that. You're going to lose money on it. So that is a darn good investment. You've got $12 million for the police, $11 million for the fire department, and third largest would be Cap Metro. If it were a budget department, we have no negotiation power, we have no discussion, we don't have any control over that. So it's a bad deal. Thank you.
Let me follow this up real quick with Trey. So let me ask you, if Proposition A is not passed, what type of suitable alternative would you propose and drive towards? Do you feel public transportation into Austin from Leander is necessary, or vice versa, or do you believe that all Leander residents are suitably connected without the partnership?
I believe that public transportation is necessary to get some of our citizens in and out of Austin. There are cheaper alternatives than the train. Direct bus service is a great alternative. But again, we will be paying for that on top of our exit costs. And there are other alternatives. I would love to see a not-for-profit initiative such as Drive Austin did for a while, start up here with ride-sharing services that are fair and well-controlled and support the city. I would love to see maybe our own shuttle service that the city can operate. There are plenty of alternatives that we could use.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have 10 seconds? Come to the council
Sorry,
meeting.
we're going to go ahead and move on for right now, but we will have a little bit of time later in your closing statements if you want to discuss that a little bit more. My next question here is for Juan. So, is one of the newer members to the area, or I would say, I don't want to use least experience because you have some experience in politics, but so far as the area concerned, what specifically do you believe makes you a better choice for your position than other candidates?
I would consider myself, I guess, a political outsider, so I'm not really aligned with any one side or the other. So I think that's one of my better qualities. Any issue that comes up, I would analyze the research and constituent feedback. I don't want to go one specific side or the other. I would make my decision based on the facts, the data, and constituent opinions. Like I said, I have some political experience, but it's been many years. It was on a youth commission in my home city of Laredo, and then right now I am on the library board. But otherwise, I'm pretty much a political outsider. And I like to stay, like I said, I like to stay independent personally. Because I've seen good plans on either side of the spectrum, and I try to analyze both sides, and I try to stay, and I want to stay that way.
Thank you.
So I completely agree with you, Juan, on looking at each of the issues on an individual basis. But you did mention a couple times in that response the different sides, and this is a nonpartisan position. So what are those sides that you're talking about?
Well, I know Prop A, yes, I do support it, I use it. But I understand there are many people against it because, as we say, the cost, which that is a very big issue, the cost. It is expensive, and I know that's a big concern. So it is on the balance of what if the people are against Prop A, then I respect that, then we will have to find a plan B for those that would use it, whether it be operate our own bus service into Austin or to the Lakeline station to take the train, whatever the voters wish, and then whatever the voters think we should do is an alternative I think is what I would go with. So I want to stay open to those that are opposed as well. Like I personally am for it, but I know many are not, and I do have to keep my mind open to that side. So if Prop A is voted down, then I will need to listen to what their plan, what we should develop as an alternative for those that use it.
So, Juan, to kind of follow up on this, you had mentioned one side or the other, constituent feedback. So is it your view that the agenda of city council members should solely be driven by the residents or voters in an area, or do you believe that city council members should have more of a guiding role towards developing their community?
I think me personally, I would like for constituents to be heavily involved. Like I represent the constituents, so I will listen to their feedback, their thoughts, and my views. I would try to shape my decisions based on constituent feedback. Whatever the project may be, if it's for more parks, I need to listen to constituent feedback to see what should we put in these parks. How should we develop them? Do we need more pools? Do we need more athletic fields? I want to make sure I'm serving my constituents, so that includes listening to their feedback and making my opinions based on their input.
Okay, thank you. The next question here is for Steve. Do you think that the removal of mayoral powers in Proposition M is justified? In most cases, the executive head of a government does have the ability to submit a recommended budget and appointees.
So I actually do think that that's justified. I think that in everything that we do as a city, we need to make sure that we're using the people and using the resources as wisely as we can. Yeah, there are going to be some cases where the mayor is the best resource. There are going to be other cases where other people are going to be a better resource. We need to listen to them and take that input as a council as we move forward. It was put to me recently, and it really struck a chord, that we have a lot of resources moving into this area. You've done your research. Everyone here is well aware of our meteoric population growth that we've had in the last few years, and it shows no signs of stopping. There are a lot of untapped resources in those new residents that we are not utilizing. Those are just some of the resources that we should be using, we should be drawing to help guide the city. There are a lot of people out there that are new to the city, have no idea the opportunities that are out there for them to serve. We need to do a better job as a city of informing people and bringing people in and letting them know what is involved with working for the city on boards and commissions, what's involved with being on council. And let's get some of these resources that are out here untapped to help us guide our decisions and move us forward in the best way possible, as opposed to, we've always done it this way, so let's just keep going that route.
Trey?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. We have a definite problem with communication with the city. And part of that stems from the old ways of doing things, like Steve mentioned. It also has to do with a slowness to change. Government is not prescriptive, it's descriptive. It meets the needs of the people that are governed. We do have a huge number of resources in the city. We have tons of citizens who are working from home, who need business growth, who need resources of their own, but they're also available to interact with us. But we don't have we have committees and things, and occasionally we'll have a zoning plan committee come up, or the charter committee review come up, but we need more short-term things, more like focus group style stuff where we can get people involved for a day or two and they can learn about the city and help us come up with ideas that don't require month-long commitments that maybe they're not comfortable with.
But let me follow this up really quickly. So both of you mentioned utilization of resources, but do you really feel as if the mayor having input into the city budget is a lost resource? Because ultimately it's the mayor that is going to be on the hook for the way that the city spends its money. Let me get Steve to respond to this, and then I'll let you have the next go, Catherine, okay?
Yeah, so the mayor is one of the resources that we need to be using. You're right, the mayor's on the hook. The mayor is the figurehead for the city. Like it or not, the buck stops there, whether or not it is the mayor's decision. So yes, the mayor should have input on that. That should not be unilateral. I would think that the mayor would be taking input from the council and from constituents as well. Again, we have all these resources. A wise council will utilize those resources effectively.
Catherine, I think you wanted to interject something?
We are not a mayor-strong city, so we are a council manager form of government, and I think in another form of government it might make sense, but we are guided by the charter, and these charter amendments that are recommended by citizens that we appointed to the charter, and the recommendations, I think, need to be respected whether we agree with them or not, which is why, I advocated to have them on the ballot. But as far as some of what you ask about the mayor, the mayor's not going to do a budget. We have somebody that does that. So I don't think any mayor, past, present, or future, wants to take on that responsibility. A volunteer position, that is just not the role of the mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, for the last candidate, Annette. So in sort of today's paradigm, we all know, we've seen on the news, that police oversight is sort of at the forefront of public awareness. Yet Proposition 8 removes the ability of the city council to review police evaluations, leaving that solely to the city manager. Why do you think that Leander voters should or should not pass Proposition 8? Or H, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I knew which one. So as Catherine said, our form of government is council manager style. So what that form of government means is that the council is the board of directors, and the city manager is the CEO. And then his directors are the senior leadership team that helps run the city. That's the type of government that we have. And we felt that, I was actually the chair of the Charter Review Commission this last time, and we felt that when you look at that form of government and that style, that the city council should not be approving or not approving police department evaluations. That would go to their chief, who is their head, and then the city manager. The other part of that is that it was, in the current charter, it says that he could also modify those reviews, which council rightfully so had a problem with. Because if they are coming from the chief of police and the chief says these are good to go, a city manager should not be modifying them in any way. He could add maybe, but not modify. So that wording was also removed by council when that recommendation was made.
Okay, so let me ask this. You discussed the problem with the city manager modifying evaluations, but with removing the council ability to review them, do you think that this sets up a precedent for LPD to establish relationships with the city manager that protects its officers against unfavorable evaluations?
I feel that that could be done with a council or the city manager. I asked the council at the meeting where the recommendations were presented if they have ever not approved a review, and they never have. It's kind of a holdover from when they were a small town, and unfortunately when we were that small of a town, the city council had to do double duty. They had to submit a budget, they had to work with the police, they had to look at personnel files because that was the small 500 to 1,000 people that lived in this town. We've outgrown that by leaps and bounds, and what needs to happen is that charter needs to kind of come with it.
Trey?
So, in my experience, and I've worked for a number of really large companies, 15,000 plus employees across the country, and you mentioned CEO versus board of directors, and in every one of those cases where gross negligence is brought up, it is usually the board is notified so that the board can understand how it affects the dynamic of management of the executive team. And I think removing the ability for the city council to sit in on those reviews, to participate, removes their ability to respond to gross negligence.
So I would say that they currently don't participate in them. They currently do not participate in any way in any police or fire reviews at all whatsoever. They get a document that says these are the yearly personnel reviews, and they approve it. They don't ask questions about it. It's not something that they could pour over. If there was any type of gross negligence, council would be notified immediately about whatever that situation was. But a general yearly review from the employees, as a commission, we didn't feel that that was necessary.
So, do you mind? So, my house has never been struck by a falling tree, but I still have insurance to cover it. Taking away the option limits our ability to respond to a future problem.
Or creates more government.
So let me, since we're talking about this, I've been making notes and listening. So let me ask this to Annette on the same vein. Do you think that because the city council has not thoroughly gone through each of these reviews, is that a failure of the council, or to thoroughly evaluate these things? Or is it a matter of simply changing the law because it hasn't been a problem now and you're anticipating it not being a problem in the future?
I would say that, could you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was kind of...
That's okay. So you mentioned that the council has not had any issue with any of the reviews from any of the police or fire department, but you also made it seem as if these reviews were not being thoroughly gone through. And is that a problem with the city council, and the city council should amend their ways versus changing the statute to just remove that responsibility?
I don't think it's a role of the city council. I work for a nonprofit. We have a board of directors. The board of directors never see my yearly review. I can guarantee you that. So it's about aligning the style of government that Leander has in the charter, which is that council manager style of government, and aligning the charter to that style of government.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry. She had already started going for it before you.
So I just have to comment on the questions. These are items that are on the ballot, that are explained in the voter guide. They're online. It's our opinion about this is irrelevant to the election. Really, I mean, it is something that has already been approved and put on the ballot. I mean, Annette's doing a phenomenal job at explaining this because she was there, and I sat on the charter review with her 5 years ago, and you know we have to clean things up occasionally. So with that, we are elected officials. We are not politicians because we're not paid. We're elected officials. We are not supervisors of any staff member, nor should we be reviewing them because they can't even take direction from us. We go directly to the city manager and he directs his department heads who oversees their staff. If there is something that needs to come before us, like if there's a disciplinary thing, we're going to be made aware of it, but it's not our place to go and discipline them or give them a review. Because, I mean, quite honestly, I would give them all a phenomenal review because I don't see the day-to-day operations of say, for the police. You know, I hear sometimes like, oh, somebody doesn't like something. Well, I had no idea. How would I know that? That is not the role of city council in this form of government by any means.
Thank you. I would like to respond at least quickly to the relevance. It is relevant simply because what candidates think and their opinions on ballot measures are actually quite important to voters. Even if you personally are not responsible, and I'm addressing the panel here, even if you are personally not responsible for enacting policy, you are an elected official which represents people. And so obviously your opinions matter, which is the purpose of the debate, is to solicit your actual opinions as a candidate. Thank you. I'm glad to see at least a little bit of back and forth on some of these. I do have some questions now that I would like to address towards the entire panel as a whole. And so I would say if you have an answer ready for that, go ahead and just kind of, I'll try to get the first come, first serve. So it has been shown that better school funding produces overwhelmingly positive outcomes for students. LISD is faced with over $7 million in budget deficit next year, even as property values in Leander are expected to rise 38%. Last year, state and county leadership withheld almost $4 million from LISD for 16 months as leverage for book bans. Do you believe that it's right to withhold school funding to drive political agendas?
No.
ditto.
Ditto.
Not at all.
I would have to find out more about all the details. It does not sound like it in theory. I'm not sure how that was held or why it was held. I did read that it was held, so I don't have a clear answer on that. My response would be no, unless somebody shows me otherwise. So I don't have all the information to say a clear-cut no.
Well, I would say that these funds have just been released by Williamson County Court. And yeah, so Leander ISD is getting their money, which everybody would love. So my next, that was pretty simple, pretty unanimous. Nobody's going to sit up there and say education isn't worth anything. My next question, and this actually came up, I've spoken with some people. So the population growth of Leander is increasing at literally an unprecedented rate. At current levels, the population is going to more than double over the next 2 years in Leander. So how will you all strive to meet the growing infrastructure demands, such as food, accessibility, water, and transportation?
So for all of our infrastructure, we need to do a better job of putting into place an asset life cycle extension program. In my day-to-day life, I work for a company that does asset management software for state and city government. One of the things we run into in states and cities all over the country is the fact that assets are wearing out faster than they should be. Roads, water, you name it. All of our infrastructure is constantly deteriorating. Now, there are things that can be done to be put in place so that we're spending more effort and money and time on preventive maintenance rather than corrective maintenance. That's been shown to have an almost 17% increase in the average life cycle of our assets. To me, the asset life cycle preservation is something that we need to do to be responsible with our resources, with our tax dollars. To not do so is a disservice to everyone in this city.
Thank you. So let me ask a follow-up to that then. So if you had received a $5 million grant for the city to spend any which way that you would want, how would that be spent and why?
Can I divvy it up? I got a lot of projects.
You got whatever you can divvy in 2 minutes.
I would love to create water conservation rebate programs for our citizens. I feel that it'd be an excellent way to incentivize our residents to conserve water, but it wouldn't cost $5 million. So I'm going to have a ton left over. And then we're going to work on a zero-scaping rebate for homeowners as well. We have to start teaching our residents how to conserve water and how important that water infrastructure is so that we can secure it for the future.
So I agree with Annette on that. Public education on the conservation is important. In addition to the wonderful ideas she just stated, we can also spend some of that money to actually give back and help. Things like dye tablets so that our citizens can check for toilet leaks. I mean, just a lot of little things that really add up and would take a small portion of that $5 million, but could make a huge difference in the long run.
I have another one.
Oh, let's spread the wealth.
Okay, so we've each used $1 million, so you each have $1 million left.
Oh, I love it.
I think we got time. We can each give you a shot at $1 million.
So, well, first of all, I would go to our finance director and say, what is the best use of this money? Would it be for debt service, or can we use it toward a project? Senior Center, $4,185,000, and we're already $2 million over budget. We were $1 million over budget 3 years ago. So it might be, let's complete some of the capital improvement projects that we already have on the books. We haven't been able to afford it because it's so expensive. So that would be one thing I would do with it. But what was the first part of the question? Because I wanted to respond to that.
The first part of the question dealt with the population growth of Leander is expected
Yes.
to. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yes. So, and this is unfair that I'm the only incumbent here, so they wouldn't be privy to this information. But we are actually hiring a conservation manager to help with that. So it's something that's been discussed, and so that is in the works. A conservation program. So all of this. I mean, it's not like we don't know there are issues, but the solutions don't happen overnight. So it is in the works. I'm very excited about that.
Okay. So
I know water is one of my my priorities. Is I know we had a couple boil water noses in the past, and of course our population is increasing rapidly. My concern is once our population increases a lot, we may need to look into another water plant. And I know there's debate on this also, and I know we have 2 plants, although one is shared. I think in 2020 we were using 15 million gallons a day, and our current capacity I believe is about 27. So right now we're fine, but what happens when our population doubles and triples over time? Are those plants capable of handling that triple population? Which I know we're going to encourage conservation, which is great. I agree, we need to in xeriscape, but still, as more people move in or companies move in, water usage is going to go up. So my concern is, are our plants ready? And if not, do we need to look at a third one? Which I know if we do, it takes time to plan. So that would be one of my concerns.
So I see hands going up all over. When I start talking about giving people imaginary money, all of a sudden it's fires up. I can give Trey and Annette each 30 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, they added their hands up
We don't need a
first.
third water plant because the BCRUA is only in the second phase of its build out. It's going to be producing over 100 million gallons per day for the city of Leander by the time it's finally done. So a second water plant isn't necessary right now.
And that's going to last 15 to 20 years, and now we need to start talking about a plant already. But money-wise, there are other programs that we need. I'd love to see incentives for home builders to fix the missing middle problem, to find right-sized homes for small and new families. I'd love to see money spent on a small business, local business support program where we can help ensure that small businesses can get into spaces and out of their homes.
So Steve, you were the only candidate that had no input on this question. In the essence of fairness for everybody.
Yeah, so in light of the water conservation, Round Rock had a big issue a number of years ago. They went full force on water conservation. They did education, they did rebates, they did xeriscaping. They went and fought with the HOAs. They gave test kits and things to their residents. They lowered their consumption 75% almost immediately. It was incredible. That's not to 75%. They lowered it 75% to 25% of what it was previously. That's Round Rock. We're Leander. We can do this.
All right, thanks. That is pretty impressive, actually. So my last question for the panel, as a non-local, I was amazed at how bad traffic is in between Austin and Leander here. And in fact, it's worse now in between Northwest Austin and the northwest suburbs of Austin than it is in the city itself. So with skyrocketing costs of private transportation, how do you plan to drive investment into the growth of Leander while balancing accessibility via private transportation? Trey?
This goes back to incentivizing building of the missing middle, improving density to attract employers, to attract businesses, to keep our people employed locally instead of having to commute into Austin.
I'm sorry.
Catherine, go ahead.
Incentivizing home builders to build more homes is rather oxymoronic. We've been hearing for years, once we get to 50,000, the business will come, the business will come, the business will come. Well, we're at 87,000. So we're still waiting for the business, and we are getting it, but they're looking for incentives, and our incentive money goes to Austin via Cap Metro. So incentivizing the missing middle when they're already building what they want, the market drives that, and we can't beat them off with the stick.
So our current zoning policies encourage building at either the super large end or the super dense end, and the discussion about 65,000 is the magic number to draw businesses. That's kind of an old thought process, the more modern thought process, is that you need the density within a fixed area. And because of our sprawl of single-family homes, we do not have that density. They want 10,000 people in a 4 square mile space. They don't want the density spread all over a large area.
So I would like to add on to this. I got you. There's a reason I asked this question last, y'all. I'm going to give everybody plenty of time to speak, I promise. So we mentioned bringing the development locally. We discussed earlier about outside investment into Leander. Do you think that it might be a problem where the business owners are actually living outside of Leander and the only employment to where Leander citizens, right, can work and thrive locally is going to be beholden to non-local companies?
So I was really responding to something else, but
I mean, this goes into transportation. I'm going off of, we talk about bringing things local and reducing the need for it even having to commute between, we're talking about bringing the growth locally.
Right.
Let me, I'll rephrase into a more concise question. I'm sorry. So we had discussed that just now, one answer is bringing growth locally and to almost eliminate the need for this travel in between metropolitan areas. But if investment is being brought into Leander by non-local companies, doesn't that put Leander citizens in a bind where now, in order to work locally, they're working for a company that is not based here, and that the company leadership isn't here? There are only lower level roles for citizens if they stay locally with the outside investment into Leander.
So this is kind of a catch-22. We need homes for people to live in so they can work here, but they need jobs so that they can afford those homes. So it just becomes a vicious cycle. We need to make sure that we have the homes here so that we're investing. We're always going to have outside companies that are here, and people are working for those. With that said, we've got to have affordable homes for people to live in. If I were to sell my house right now, I don't know if I could buy another one in Leander. They're that high priced at this point. So the thing we've also got to remember, and my wife put this thought in my head, but it's very accurate, homes are where jobs sleep. So it all works together. Bring the jobs, bring the homes.
So Trey, you had your hand up, but I think Catherine actually was ready to go.
yeah, I'm just kind of thinking of it's kind of a which comes first. We have a situation where, we're promoting live, work, play. Such an overused phrase, live, work, play. And then we have advocates for commuting to Austin. Well, if we're living and working and playing here, we don't need the transportation to Austin. Now, that's not solve all problems, because some are going to have to commute, but there's an option. So with with having so many home builders and homes here, we still have to get caught up with the commercial, and what we're facing right now is it's very off balance. We need the commercial development to help offset the burdensome property taxes, and for every homeowner there are additional services that are required, and if there's schools, then there's a burden on the schools as well. So that high density, we were pushing high density for quite some time, and I believe it will happen. I'm not against having a walkable area. I think that's great, and I'm probably out of time. I'll let him talk.
That's okay. I'm keeping track.
So I don't know about you, but I don't know of any investment firms in Leander that have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars lying around to invest in our in infrastructure and building out resources. And unfortunately, that happens all over the country. That's every small town. We have to get those investors from outside of the city for large projects. And business, by its very nature, makes those in the business beholden to those above them. That's the nature of business. We'd all like a little more fairness, but it is what it is. We need to push more education and keeping our kids coming back after they've graduated college, and when we have a workforce that the professional services and other sort of mid-range companies are looking for, they will be able to open facilities here and find the staff they need.
Can I go back to transportation really quick?
Well, that is actually what the question, where we started.
Okay.
So I can give you 1 minute.
Thank you. So I believe that as far as our transportation goes, we need to be proactive instead of reactive, which is what we have been. In September of 2020, the city did a study on the roadway surface, the surface of all of the roadways in the city, and it showed that we have some serious deficits to where if we have to reconstruct those roads instead of repair it, it's going to cost about 7 times the cost. So we have to be proactive in those repairs. Given the budget in that study, they show that what we're allotting for that transportation maintenance is not enough. And slowly, over every year, our score on the quality of those roads is going to keep decreasing until we start investing and being proactive.
So on that note, I do have a little bit of a follow-up here, and this kind of goes back into the Prop A discussion. So good, reliable public transportation has been repeatedly shown to alleviate congestion, reduce private transportation costs, increase transportation reliability, and dramatically reduce emissions. So how do you justify investing in automotive infrastructure over the next several years? Go ahead.
It's all about money. It's all about the funding mechanism. I mean, this is Texas. It's hard to get people out of their vehicles. It's got to be convenient. I mean, really, this is one of those situations where it is up to the voters. If they want to be a bedroom community, we have that option. We can do that and provide the transportation. But I don't remember anyone ever saying that they were against public transportation. Public transportation is something I'm a fan of. I've used it myself, not here, but I've used it in the past, and it saved my job. But the way it is funded in Texas when you're a partner city is detrimental to small cities. So there's got to be a way, and there is, which is why it's on the ballot, to fund the transportation and solve that problem. Solve that problem without it costing 50% of our potential sales tax.
I see microphones going up.
Did you want to go? Okay.
I can give each of you 30 seconds, and then we're going to have to move on.
I'd like to say that I very much support public transportation. What I would like to see is better public transportation within our city. Going to Benbrook Park on opening day would have been great to take the bus instead of walking 2 miles. So within the city, public transportation definitely needs to be improved.
And then Trey?
Back to the road infrastructure question, which led into the public transportation. I think we're all in agreement here. It's the old adage of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We need to focus on catching up on the maintenance and work on our plan for improving the infrastructure we have. The public transportation issue is more of we can't afford to build out before we get the maintenance done, so we need the public transportation to offset the growth.
All right, thank you. So that's all the questions that I had prepared for this evening. We're right on schedule, and I do have time for each candidate. Each of you has 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and we're going to go ahead and start in the same order that we opened with the questions. Catherine?
Okay, so somebody, I can't remember, I think it was Steve, may have mentioned about ideas from the community. One of the things we do, we just remember, we do represent the community. We represent the citizens of Leander. Without the citizens, we are not a city. We have nothing. I don't do this for myself, because I could just as easily be staying at home with my husband and taking a vacation or something. I do it because I love the city. the issues that we have put forth, the issues that we discuss, come from citizens. I don't have a vision that I want to push on the city. My vision is your vision. It's what do you want? And when I'm talking to small groups of people, I say, I want to hear from you before we vote on the issue, not complain after the fact, because it's just that important. It's what you want. It's not what I want. And quite often, it's like my opinion about something doesn't really matter, but what do I think is best for the city? And I use my husband as an example sometimes. I say, honey, what shoes should I wear? And he says, well, you should wear those. Well, why? Well, they look more comfortable. I didn't ask which ones are more comfortable. I asked which ones I should wear, which ones look better. So that is how, what do you want? That's what we want to hear. And with that, I'm just asking for support, for just the honor and the privilege to serve this community for another 3 years. And I want to say to everyone up here, good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
So, stepping up to want to serve the city is stepping up to be stewards, to listen to constituents, to listen to the people we represent, but to also communicate and set proper expectations. I do have a vision for the future. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I know I want it to include my kids being able to start their lives in their hometown, near their parents, near their support structure, and keep my family together. And I think a lot of people in this town want the same thing. But at the moment, we don't have the opportunities for those young adults. And we need to work harder to build a plan that will be inclusive of our family members going forward.
Thank you. What?
I think, like most people, everyone here, we all want Leander to be great with great opportunities. So, one thing, like the rest, that I do want to attract more businesses. So if I get on council, that's one of my main priorities: more businesses, medium-sized companies, so we can provide more jobs for our citizens, for our kids when they grow up and stay here. And also, these businesses will hopefully bring in more tax base, as well as more retail. We can stay here in Leander and shop versus going to Cedar Park or Leander, which will hopefully take also a burden off the roads. So attracting retail and a bit more business is one of my priorities. Also, improving our parks is another priority. I know there is numerous cities that have all more pool facilities, aquatic facilities, bigger parks. So that's another priority is more parks, more recreation. So people that move in will have plenty of areas to walk around, have picnics with their families and kids, swim, play sports. So that's another one of my priorities. And also just infrastructure. Make sure our water infrastructure is set, prepared for the future. Because I know I have seen the projections anywhere from 140,000 to 250,000 in 2040. So we need to make sure our water infrastructure is ready, as well as our roads. So, we may need bigger roads, and like Annette said, we should be proactive. So if we need to expand a couple of roads, we need to do it now, not after the fact when we're all sitting bumper to bumper. So that's kind of my vision. But like we all said, we're no one without the citizens. We need citizen input. We're here to represent the citizens. So that, as councilman, will be my job. Listen to my constituents, get their input on potential projects before we approve them or deny them. We need their opinions and their ideas.
Thank you. Steve?
So this race is all about experience, and experience matters. Nobody in my race has done as much with city commissions and boards as I have. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee. People love to say, I'll bring businesses here. I've actually done it. It's a difference between saying it and doing it. I'm on the Parks and Rec Board. That's a passion of mine. We do not have enough parks here. Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure that you're not standing in front of the other candidates while you're... Thank you.
That was my master plan.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll add that time to your 2 minutes.
I'm on the Little League Advisory Board. I'm also a co-founder and on the board of the directors of the Leander Foundation. All of these have helped prepare me to represent you as a city council person. I want to talk real briefly about the question of Cat Metro. Everybody comes and asks us all the time, how do you feel about it? Yes, that's important, but that's not the right question. Like Catherine mentioned, that's going to be decided on the same ballot where this election is. The real question should be, who do you trust to move us into the next step? If we vote to stay, we've got to do whatever we can to increase ridership. If we decide to leave, we've got to make sure that not only the short-term plan to provide services is there, but also that we have a viable long-term plan. Based on experience, because experience matters, I feel I am the person to help us lead into that next place. So I'd ask you all to just consider that when you go to the ballot May 7th, and again, please believe in Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Annette?
So my name is Annette Sponseller. I'm running for Leander City Council Place 5. First, I would like to thank Smooth Village for hosting this event and Josh for the work that you put in to be able to moderate this. Next, I'd like to say that my priorities lie in securing our long-term water and transportation solutions, supporting and advocating for small businesses, and supporting our emergency services departments. I will show up, I will continue to learn, and I will do the work. Vote for Annette.
Thank you. Okay. All right, for those of you that came out tonight, I want you to thank all of our candidates for showing up and answering the questions and being here to interact with all of us. So let's give them a round of applause. Candidates, thank you all very much for coming. I know it's probably one of the most agreeable panels of candidates I've probably ever seen in my life, so it made everything quite easy. And I want to extend my thanks for being so cordial and just being good sports about it, okay? So again, and also thanks to Smooth Village. And with that, I'll let everybody go. Make sure and tip your bartenders at the end of the night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.